Let's talk about this a bit more with Paul Hickin. He joins us now. He's from Platts. Paul, hi, and thank you so much for taking our time and joining us. Would this fall that we've seen in crude, of course, in the last 2-3 days, there's been a recovery as well because of weather conditions, which have in turn disrupted productions. But do you think that this fall is something that would perturb the coalition too much? Because the Saudi minister has been very clear in saying that, look, we can always reverse production policy if we feel the need to do so.
Yeah, so I think if it's sustained, if it's been longer term, then that would have been a concern for OPEC going into this meeting. I think where we are now, around the $70 a barrel mark, is a bit of a sweet spot for producers and consumers and for OPEC Plus, really, enough to not to disrupt demand too much and enough to incentivize production. So we're in that sort of area where I think, from Platts Analytics' perspective, that extra 400,000 barrels a day is likely to come back, be agreed to come back at this meeting, and they'll wait until the following meeting next month. The fact they meet monthly helps them to be more nimble and to react to when trends, for example, wobbles in demand, are sustained. Now, by the looks of things, demand has recovered with improvements around China in particular after that initial wobble, which is a huge consumer of crude. And India is on a tentatively improving trajectory as well, another big consumer of crude. So with that in mind, and being that demand is the big factor for OPEC Plus, is that they're likely to keep things, this trend in bringing crude back to the market. There's enough incentive to incentivize that to happen.
Yeah, China's made a comeback, India's made a comeback, though at the same time, Paul, we've been hearing of the resurgence of cases in China, particular, in some pockets of the United States as well. Do you see that as being any sort of threat to the demand estimates for the rest of the year?
It's still a risk to the demand outlook for sure, and that's why that's why OPEC Plus is going to be having these monthly meetings for starters. It's something that, especially when you look at the supply side, and there's also risk on that side. We've talked about Iran a lot. There's still no deal, and whether one gets over the line by the end of the year is becoming slightly less likely than it was before, and that could be 1 million barrels a day of extra crude coming onto the market. And if that doesn't happen, that's going to be an extra burden on OPEC and potentially to bring on extra crude to the market. So there's that factor. There's also been more security questions and security concerns in some of the other key producers. Libya, while they're producing 1.2 million barrels a day, up towards what they towards full capacity for them at the moment, they've had a lot of internal discord going on at the moment between the oil ministry and the national oil company, and also between over budget concerns. So Libya's one to watch. There's also Nigeria has sparked up some civil disobedience there as well. So there are some key producers still to watch on the supply side as much as the demand side, and keeping those certain facts on both sides of the ledger for OPEC is one that's going to be keenly watched, and why still there's probably all options are on the table, and why even though that we believe that 400,000 barrels a day will come back on and they'll agree to that, any potential change in guidance could still happen at this meeting.
All right. So the expectation is that what was decided in the previous meeting will be reaffirmed by the members. 400,000 barrels per day will be added. And yes, the monthly meetings, of course, help the OPEC become a bit more nimble in adapting to the situation, in adapting to what's a very uncertain virus crisis that, well, unfortunately, the world has still not been able to shake itself off completely. Paul, thank you so much for joining us today on the show. With that, we're going to take a very short break. Be right back with lots more chat on the markets.